Good afternoon. I'm Governor Pat McCrory. Honored to be in the beautiful city of Wilmington, North Carolina. We're here to give you an update on Tropical Storm Arthur. And I'm joined by Emergency Management Director Mike Sprayberry and also my Department of Transportation Secretary Tony Tatum. I do want to let you know the reason we're here today, first of all, is to give the public an accurate update on exactly what's coming to North Carolina and our coastal area and what procedures and operation we have in place. Our major goal is to ensure that no lives are lost during this upcoming storm. We also want to make sure that we protect all emergency operations workers during this storm and make sure they're able to do their job in a safe and effective way. We also are going to want to encourage our citizens to be prepared to assemble any potential emergency kits and also to use the app, Ready NC app, which will give you the latest updated information on roads, operations, facilities that might be available in case you need to go to a facility. We also want to be sure we tell people what operations are in place after the storm regarding utilities, roads, and emergency operations. The main information I want to give you is, as we've learned during the snowstorms, where we had two of the most powerful snowstorms hit our entire state this past winter, is I want to again reiterate, don't put your stupid hat on. Usually most injuries occur right before a storm or right after a storm. So especially on the coastal area, we want to make sure people don't try out the great waves right before the storm comes. Even though there are good waves, we don't want you to go into the ocean. And we want to make sure you stay away from flooded areas after the storm and let the emergency operation workers deal with fallen lines and other operations. Again, almost every casualty we've had during storms occur typically right before or after a storm, when people again get too comfortable when there is still potential danger. Right now, the storm update is, of course, it's still, Arthur is still off the coast of Florida, tracking north. It is expected to gain strength into a Category 1 hurricane as it approaches the North Carolina coast. Forecasts currently project Arthur to approach North Carolina Thursday morning, with the greatest impacts occurring Thursday night into Friday morning and clearing by Friday afternoon. Projections right now indicate it will brush the coast and affect primarily the Outer Banks, but as we know, there is always a possibility that this could change. North Carolina, of course, is no stranger to tropical weather, storms, or hurricanes. We've experienced emergency management personnel and local officials working diligently to prepare for the storm, and we also expect citizens to prepare for this storm. Over the past few days, the state officials have been coordinating with our federal and state and local officials to ensure that we are ready. We will support counties in preparation, response, and recovery efforts. This morning, I signed 2 executive orders related to the storm. The first declares a state of emergency for the 25 coastal and adjoining inland counties that may feel impact from Arthur. The second is a waiver of various transportation rules and regulations in order to quickly restore power and expedite any debris removal. We've reached out to various utilities in the affected areas, asking them to be prepared for any potential outages. While the current forecast does not indicate that this will be a major impact, we are taking this storm very seriously, and I ask that all coastal residents and visitors do the same, especially during this 4th of July weekend. We ask that folks in the eastern part of the state, and especially along the coast and the Outer Banks, listen to media outlets, weather reports, and your local officials for updates in your area. Assemble emergency supply kits and make a plan on what to do if you are impacted by the storm. If you haven't already, again, I want to emphasize Ready North Carolina website and download the smartphone app Ready NC for your iPhone or your Android device. Ready NC tells you how to prepare an emergency plan and kit, gives real-time traffic updates, weather, water levels, power outages, open shelters, evacuation routes, the list goes on. It's an excellent app, and I hope all of you go ahead and download this on your phone. Ready NC app. All this information is at the touch of your fingertips, updated in real time by our emergency management team and partners so the information remains current. Again, use common sense, stay out of the ocean and sound throughout the duration of the storm. Riptides are very dangerous no matter what your level of experience is in the water. Again, more than anything else, I don't want you to put at risk not only yourself, but also people who may try to help you, especially our emergency operation workers. This is no time to be selfish or pretend to be brave during a storm for a short-term adventure. The safety of our citizens and visitors is our number one priority. North Carolina tourism offices actively work with state and local emergency management and local tourism offices to keep our visitors informed in the event of approaching storm. The North Carolina Division of Tourism will have its visitors call center open 24 hours a day starting this Thursday through the duration of the storm, and live operators will offer the latest information and updates at 1-800-VISIT-NC. That's 800-847-4862. We urge all visitors to stay tuned to local media, stay in touch with their lodging property, and monitor the state's tourism office website, www.visitnc.com, for updates and assistance. Let's hope for the best, pray for the best. Again, don't put your stupid hat on. Let's be smart. Let's help each other. Let's help our neighbors. And let's hope we all get to enjoy Independence Day with our families and friends at North Carolina's beautiful beaches. I'm proud to introduce a partner of mine who's done an outstanding job on several emergencies during my year and a half as governor, Mike Sprayberry, who is our emergency management director, and he'll go into more detail about the preparations. Mike, thank you for your work. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
sir. As the governor said, we're not taking this lightly. We're taking this very seriously. We've been working with our FEMA partners, the National Hurricane Center, and our local partners, having conference calls and reviewing what type of protective actions that we may need to take in preparation for Tropical Storm Arthur, possibly to become Hurricane Arthur. So what are we doing right now? Currently, we've scheduled the State Emergency Operations Center to be activated at 0800 tomorrow with a number of our state emergency response team partners. That includes everybody from the National Guard to the Office of Emergency Medical Services to the Highway Patrol. Anybody that we think that we might need during an event like this. Currently, we also have 30 National Guard soldiers that will be activated and deployed to our Kinston office so that they'll be prepared to go out with high water vehicles to make any rescues should that be called for. They'll be on station at 0800 tomorrow as well. Our Regional Coordinating Center in Kinston will also be activated. So we are also going to have a FEMA Incident Management Assistance Team located with us in the state EOC to help us in case we need any federal resources. We're not anticipating that, but as I say, we want to plan for all of the worst contingencies. It's still too early to tell what type of impacts this event is going to have on the state of North Carolina. We do know that there's a tropical storm warning and a tropical storm watch along the coastline of North Carolina, so we intend to be prepared for any eventuality. We have been working closely with the counties, as I've said. We've been on many conference calls with them, and their control groups will be the ones making the decision whether or not they're going to order any evacuations. We've recently learned that Hyde County is going to have a voluntary evacuation later on today. Secretary Tato will talk more about that when he comes up to speak. But the rest of the counties will be meeting to discuss whether or not they're going to decide to have an evacuation for this event. Again, a bit too early to tell what the impacts of this storm is going to be. We know that there's a possibility of some high wind gusts, up to hurricane wind gusts. We could have storm surge. So we want to be careful, and we don't want to take anything for granted. As the governor mentioned, we want to make sure that all of our visitors, all of our residents are staying in touch with the media, and that they stay closely in touch and listening to what their local officials are advising them. You're going to get what the protective measures are in your counties from your local officials. So please listen to them and please heed their advice. It's very important. The governor also mentioned our Ready NC app. That is a very strong application that you can download to your Droid or your iPhone. It'll give you information about transportation routes, evacuation, shelters, and things like that. So we are preparing for the worst, hoping for the best, just like the governor said. I will tell you that the state of emergency that he declared is going to allow us to deploy assets with more agility. It'll allow us to be quicker, to get them downrange to where they're needed. We appreciate his foresight in doing that for us. And so I'm going to turn it over at this time with one more reminder. Listen to the media, listen to your local officials, download your Ready NC app. Secretary Tatum?
Thanks, Mike. The teamwork between emergency management and Department of Transportation is really unparalleled in my service history, and I appreciate Mike and the governor's leadership here. And NCDOT has been watching this closely for several days now as it began to started out as a big rainstorm, and then it turned into a tropical depression, and now its current status as a potential hurricane. So what we have been doing has, I'll lay out several steps that we've taken. The first thing I'd like to say is that our NCDOT employees, this is where they really step up and they double down, and their love of service to the people of North Carolina really shines through in these types of situations, as we saw throughout the snowstorms and even the rainstorms of last summer. Here in the Wilmington area, New Brunswick, and throughout our coastal transportation divisions, which are Division 1, 2, and 3 from north to south, they've been at hard work for 2 days now, checking equipment, make sure everything's in working order, fueling up, getting generators ready, gathering signage, high water signs, that traffic control devices that may be necessary, and in case of flooded roads. And our crews will be on standby throughout the storm and ready to work with power companies to help clear the roads and that may become blocked by storm damage. Along the Outer Banks, crews are staging more than 25 additional front-end loaders, motor graders, bulldozers, and other heavy earth-moving equipment along the NC-12 route in Ocracoke, Rodanthe, and Pea Island south of Bonner Bridge. To be ready. We've got more equipment ready to mobilize if we need it, and of course employees are prepared, and just as we did in the winter, we're prepared to shift employees from one division to another wherever the greatest demand and need is. We've got people on standby for after the storm to assess damage, survey and dive teams to check out bridge structures to ensure that they're safe, and to include the Bonner Bridge, after the storm passes. Our ferry crews are obviously heavily engaged in this endeavor with the tropical depression, and with Hyde County's declaration of voluntary evacuation from Ocracoke, that is a trigger for our ferry division now to go into emergency operations, which we are doing. And based on Hyde County's decision, our ferries will have the same runs, but they will run 24/7, so that residents and visitors may leave at their choosing if they so decide. And so we have shifted to emergency operations effective immediately with our ferry division. And so we will continue to work with Hyde County, of course, Dare County, and all the counties along the coast where the ferries are impacted. And really what this means is that ferry tolls have been lifted also on the sound routes, and the ferry division is now in evacuation mode as opposed to normal operation mode. So 24/7, no tolls on the sound routes and off of Ocracoke. So also the Port of Wilmington and Morehead City are currently operating under conditioned whiskey, which means we're checking generators, light systems, bracing warehouse doors, tying down equipment and supplies in anticipation of gale force winds. As the storm approaches, we'll continue to share updated information through the app as well as through our NC12 Facebook page, our NCDOT Facebook page, and Twitter. And please be careful if you have to travel. NCDOT stands ready to assist through the highways, through the ferries, and inspecting bridges, as well as all the other modes of travel. Thank you.
Let me also thank New Hanover County, representatives, county officials, and emergency operations personnel. You've been a great partner, and really appreciate y'all hosting us here today. And we're very dependent upon you at the local level. You know this better than anyone else, and we appreciate your partnership. With that, I know this is also a very important travel and tourism weekend, or 4th of July weekend. In fact, I'm scheduled to be at the Southport 4th of July parade. And I know everyone's going to be watching this weather pattern very, very closely, and it's very important for us to get the most up-to-date forecast as possible, and we'll be giving those throughout the next 48 hours or so. So with that, let us take some questions. Yes, sir.
Governor, this is not going to be the worst of the worst hurricanes by any prediction.
Right.
Does that concern you more, especially since it's July 4th weekend, that people are going to say, wow, the forecast right before is good and right after is good, and we're not going to...
Well, there's several issues we have to be concerned about. As people may underestimate still a very serious storm, which cause power outages possibly, and also could cause some flooding both inland and on the coast. And we're very concerned in the short term also about the rip tides and people possibly getting in the ocean for whatever reason. That is our major concern at this point in time. The other issue is this is a large coastal area from all the way from the South Carolina border to the Virginia border, and we do not know where the impact will be. As you see, there's already been at the Outer Banks, which is a long way from here, already some voluntary evacuations. So we're all trying to estimate which area of the coastal part of North Carolina will be impacted. And that's why it's important for us to watch the news, because as we've learned in the past history of this area, sometimes right at the border we get hit from Myrtle Beach up to Wilmington. Other areas it might be at Morehead City north up to Nags Head, Virginia. We just don't know. Or it might hit all of it, or it could go inland. You know, it's been I'll never forget Hugo, where it went inland very quickly up to Charlotte. So we've had many different variations of the theme, and we've got to be ready for anything. And hopefully we'll get very accurate forecast even closer to the actual storm. Yes, sir.
What, if anything, are you guys doing to coordinate information about the risk of rip currents to people not familiar with them? Because that often seems to be the biggest issue here, is people not from the area are the ones that get caught in them.
I'm going to have Mike answer that question about some of the things we're doing in advising. I know, first of all, we have the tourism. We're going to be working very closely with the tourism industry to ensure that they're notifying their people. We're going to be working with local Wilmington and New Hanover and other beach communities to make sure that their local officials are working the beaches to make sure people are not getting in the ocean at the dangerous time. So this is going to be a team effort. And frankly, on that issue of rip tides, I think it's the local officials who will be primarily responsible for that. Of course, we'll be working with the Coast Guard on any potential emergency operations and other areas. Mike, do you have anything
You
else
hit
to
it
add
right
there?
on.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head.
Great.
The evacuation, is that just for Hyde County? Was that a state decision, or did that come from local authorities?
Local authority.
That was local authorities, Hyde County.
And that's voluntary?
That's voluntary.
From Ocracoke.
From Ocracoke, which is a very unique situation there.
Can you speak to the safety right now of the Bonner Bridge as the storm approaches?
I'm going to let Tony speak to the safety of the Bonner Bridge. That's a great question.
We have completed the repairs from December's closure, and we actually took on another bend, which includes 10 pylons, one up from the affected bend that created the closure situation. So we actually repaired more than we anticipated, and current scans show that all of the bends, which are the substructures that are holding up the bridge, are above scour critical levels, and so the bridge is safe at this time. Long term, we need a new bridge, and of course that is a whole different discussion, but the bridge is safe for travel at this time.
Do you
Well, let's take two more questions here. Let me
I have one.
get some, yes.
Yeah, so I know when you were talking about people that would be coming for 4th of July weekend, you know, you said definitely stay in touch with the tourism center, that kind of thing. Would there ever come a point where you guys, or are you asking people maybe to consider changing your travel plans?
At this time, we're not making those recommendations, but this is where, in short notice or long notice, the minute we see potential danger, we will be making that recommendations. I know as governor during the snowstorm, I recall making a recommendation to cancel a Duke Carolina basketball game. So if it has to do with potentially saving lives, we will make that recommendation, even as controversial as canceling a Duke Carolina basketball game. But we also want to recognize we don't want to, there's a fine line. And we're going to be first responsible for saving lives and not putting people in danger, but at the same time, we're going to be being very reasonable and watching these weather patterns. One more question. Yes, sir. Anything else? Thank you all very much. Again, I'd like to thank New Hanover County, the people of Wilmington, see the county commissioner here. It's great seeing you, Woody, and everyone else. Thank you very much.